We are about to start our program. Request everyone to please put your mobile phones in silent mode. On behalf of CSR family, I welcome our Honorable Speaker and DG ma'am. Let's welcome them with a huge round of applause. A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to the 18th CSR AMRIT Lecture. The AMRIT Lecture Series, launched in May 2023, enriches CSIR's research, innovation, and technology ecosystem by showcasing the inspiring journeys, achievements, and insights of India's foremost science, technology, and industry leaders. Last month, the lecture series proudly entered its third year, marking another milestone in its journey of this inspiring discourse. Time and again, our AMRIT lectures have been graced by distinguished speakers, and building on this legacy, we are pleased and thrilled to have with us Dr. R.R. Sonde, Senior Professor Emeritus at BITS, Goa, to deliver our 18th AMRIT lecture on disruptive innovation and maturity scaling, technology, policy, and economic pathways for Viksit Bharat at 2047. We in CSIR deeply acknowledge the critical role of disruptive innovation and maturity scaling as they bridge cutting-edge technology and scalable real-world solutions. The alignment of research, industry, and governance through strategic policy frameworks can accelerate the development and adoption of breakthroughs, ensuring inclusive and sustainable growth. We are confident that this session today will equip the entire scientific fraternity with the tools and perspective to not only adapt to change, but also to drive it. You all know that this talk was actually scheduled for last month, but due to health exigency, Dr. Sonde could not deliver it last month. So we have it now, and I'm really very happy to share with you that his day today is totally dedicated to CSIR. This morning, he spent a good amount of time with the scientists of CSIR CRRI. He visited several labs, including the steel slag technology laboratory. Thereafter, he had interactions with the scientists at CRRI, and our young scientists of CSIR across the lab, the chosen one, were very fortunate to get time with our honorable speaker during the Samvad discussion that was held today again at CSR Science Center. So, sir, we are extremely grateful to you for all your time, support, and blessings for CSIR, for accepting our kind invitation and for being with us. It's an honor and privilege to welcome you, and we are all very happy and delighted to be with you here. And thank you so much, ma'am, for all the support, and request you to please welcome our dignitary with the spider plant, which has been provided to us by CSIR IHBT, and which is planted. Thank you, ma'am. Request you for opening remarks, please.
So, Namaskar, Vanakkam, and pleasant afternoon to each and every one of you. I do not know how, to what extent you people are thrilled, but I am extremely thrilled today because I knew this vibrant personality for several decades. And the kind of energy he is able to, I think towards the end, you may be able to feel that one. His energy levels are always contagious. And he will always trigger us, and he will also make us to gain some amount of energy from him. So we are waiting to get your energy, part of your energy, to CSIR also today. And friends, this AMRIT lecture is definitely having a very specific objectives, because when country, he is also going to talk about 2047. And whenever we talk about the technology landscape, TRL 1 to TRL 9, it is this Professor Sonde who really made all of us to think in our early times the importance of TRL. So what is TRL, what is MRL, what is CRL? So all these things, I think we got to know from him, at least I got to know from him. From the way he raised the questions, from the way he was just triggering all of us when we were so young. That time we started thinking about and we started understanding also the importance of all these things. And today he is here to tell us to what extent this scale up could be made possible and what is the policy required, what is the hard work required, what are the efforts to be put in, and what are the systemic arrangements which are required. Everything he is going to share with us because he knows CSIR in a much more closer way than even DG knows, to that level, because he is talking to almost every laboratory. He has more friends than me, and therefore his understanding about CSIR is also huge and huge. Now, coming to the very important point of Viksit Bharat and science and technology, I just want to say only one thing. So we were talking about from morning, so what is our economy, what is our economy? Because all the time he'll be talking about ROI, he'll be talking about the cost economics. So he has certain very signature terminologies which are very much related to Sondeji only. So one thing is, if at all we talk about our economy, so today we can say it is not the fifth economy. Now we are the fourth largest economy, 4 trillion economy. So we should become the third largest economy. So that is only 5 trillion. I'm talking about in terms of dollar, $5 trillion economy. Then if you ask me, it is little easy because the number is we started from 3 trillion, now we are 4 trillion. The next immediate step is 5 trillion. I think that could also be done within 2 to 3 years. People say the forecast is that way. Science and technology is also moving in that direction. I think it is definitely going to be possible. But the next step is very, very important. So to go from the third largest economy to the second largest economy, the number we have to touch upon is from $5 trillion to $19 trillion. So $19 trillion, if at all we touch only, we can just call ourselves as the second largest economy. Then from that one to touch upon the topmost number one position, we have to hit the number of $30 trillion economy. We are today only $4 trillion economy. So how are we going to touch upon this 5, 19 and 30 in the days to come, and everything should happen within 2047? You can ask me, can it happen? Is it going to be a reality? We are here to say, realize and give an endorsement from our end that yes, it is possible. Yes, it is going to happen. We are going to make it to happen. We are there to take the responsibility, and it is with that responsibility CSIR is taking the help of visionary leaders like Sondeji. Because every time DG is talking in her own language, every time DG is asking you, you have to do, you have to do, you have to do it by yesterday itself, by telling it only today. So it is DG's mantra and it is DG's way of asking expectation. You'll be getting bored. But when you just listen it from visionary leaders like Sondeji, you may try to understand it from a different perspective. You may try to appreciate and understand the importance and the baseline behind all these expectations. So in one line, now I can understand because all of you are thinking how long Kaleselvi is going to talk. It is not Kaleselvi's Amrit lecture, it is Sondeji's Amrit lecture. Sondeji, I do not find any great word. The only word which is known to me is thanks a ton, thanks a trillion. That much only I can tell you. So with that kind of a big thanks, I really invite you to just make us listen to your very, very important words of wisdom. Thank you so very much.
Would you like to sit down or something? Or would
If you allow me, I will sit here.
No, no, no problem. Just to see my presentation.
Here.
No problem. Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, I know on a Friday afternoon, weekend being there will be certain lower energies. But as Madam has said, I can't afford at least next 60 minutes. You got to be with me. And not only you, the other 37 lab scientists who I'm addressing them virtually. I hope they are also, many of them, as she knows, that I know them. I would like you to give me that 60 minutes of time to bring up this particular topic when Dr. Kaleselvi called me up one day and said that, look, you have to be there. Your 18th lecture. 18th is Virat Kohli, you know. Virat Kohli's number is 18th. So I said, without even before she said, I said, yes, I will come. But unfortunately, because of some issue, that May lecture could not happen. And thank you very much, ma'am, and your office. I think Mahesh, where is Mahesh? So yeah, and entire her office took care of this particular visit. So when she asked me that you must deliver this talk, came to my mind, I was thinking what should be that particular topic, which cannot be too kind of a technology-centric, but at the same time should resonate well with all of you, mostly the younger lot of CSIR scientists, and of course across the CSIR fraternity, was this aspect. And that is my title. What I said is that disruptive innovation and maturity scaling. Okay, let me just give you the definition of this, why I have chosen this particular topic. What does it really signify? Because believe me, my dear friends, 24/7 this thought is in my mind. What is that thought? As she said so nicely, that India has to be a developed nation, and we'll come to that. What is the definition of developed nation or Viksit Bharat by 2047? It is no more aspirational. It is no more a number game. It is for us existential reality. India has to be there as a Viksit Bharat. And if I say that India has to be there as a Viksit Bharat, which means that India's economy, because that's one parameter, it's only one of the few parameters, has to grow from current $4 trillion to at least about $32 trillion as per the lot of those calculations which is required for that particular Viksit number. That means you have to grow 8 times. You have to grow 8 times in a time period which is 1/3 of what we have done so far. So can you understand this? And if we are serious and we are committed that 2047 India will become Viksit, growing 8 times and doing it in 1/3 time, which means that we are going to build 80% of India in the next 25 years. Please absorb this whole thing. And when you start absorbing that this is what is required to be done, you will get, how do I do it? We can do it. We can build more cement plant, we can build more steel plant, we can build more atomic energy plant, we can build more automobiles, we can build more. But no, that will not happen. Because as we are reaching that number, one thing that is happening which did not happen when we were working, we were lucky enough, was today in next 25 years, technology disruption will take place. You will not have the same steel plant, same blast furnace, same electric arc furnace, same rotary kilner, same pharmaceutical reactors. They will all undergo enormous change because of the disruption in technology. So now look at this third parameter. That means we want to grow. We want to grow 8 times. We have to do it in 1/3 time. And then I know that the future 25 years, the world would undergo an enormous change. It is not status quo continued. It is not the same numbers multiplied. It will be having all new things. Somebody may say you may have electric, e-cement, e-fertilizers, ammonia, which Haber-Bosch we all revered, who got twice the Nobel Prize coming from a chemical engineering fraternity. No more will be manufactured by a thermocatalytic conversion using either rhodium or iron-based promoter catalyst. It will be entirely new way ammonia will be made. It will be entirely new way an automobile will reflect itself. It will be entirely new way the energy system will be there. So then you, my God, we are into such an area. What do? Do we simply scale up the current state of the art, which is tempting, or I wait for the disruption to take place? And that is a question which will be uppermost in the minds of all of us, scientists, technologists, bureaucrats, politicians, public servant, everybody. This will be the challenge because disruptions are going to be here. And therefore, I said, how do you manage this? Do I wait for the disruptions and then say I will build a scale, or I'll build a scale and then say, oh, I'm build an old technology, now the new technology is coming. And that is what is the uncertainty which all of us as scientists essentially will have to go through. And therefore, I thought, let me give my thoughts. It is not something which I know that this is the way we need to negotiate this conundrum between disruptive technologies versus scaling up the technologies. India needs scale. Today, scale and speed are critical. But then, at what stage I should wait? Should I wait for perovskites impregnated in a graphene to give me 35% efficiency cells to be manufactured, or I should start at whatever today polysilicon 18%? If I pose that question to your thematic leaders, what should India do? The answer is not going to be very simple. And mostly when industries ask this question, what should I do? Should I now invest or wait for you to give me this double the efficiency power cells, which will completely make the current technologies obsolete? And this is, sometimes when I think over it, how do I address this question if somebody asks me as a scientist or as a policymaker, hey, tell me, what should we do? Delay is not an option. Lag is not an option. And waiting for somebody else outside India to develop, definitely not an option. So technology should power India, and we should ensure that if India has to legitimately become Viksit, we cannot allow dumping ground of obsolete technologies. I mean it in every which way. I talk to a lot of my industry friends. Our temptation to go for proven technologies has brought India to such a shape today that India has to shed all that thing to actually get it done. So that's why I choose this topic. I choose this topic for one more reason. Please, this is my passion. India is a lighthouse of a global wisdom from time immemorial. I was there with her for the young, those 10 people. I said that, look, India has been a real wisdom-giving house for the entire, for the globe from time immemorial. I mean, I don't want to go into the 2,500 years, what all India has contributed to bringing not only the prosperity, the trade, as well as the wisdom. And today, when we see the Western concept of a dominance or a Viksit is little distorted, you may argue with me. The Western concept, and again here, this is my understanding, is always I win, you lose. They work in this binary. That is how all this colonial mindset is still very much impregnant in the developed nation, is that they have run that if I have to win, you have to lose. And you see that evident in all our, I mean, I feel disgusted when such poor global leadership is at the fore, because it is that philosophy. Whereas what India brought to the globe is, I win, you can also win. It is possible that both of us can win. And this is what is required if the planet, human beings on the planet, has to survive. I don't know how many of you will agree with this philosophy, but it's very important that we understand this. I may be going a little away from my subject, but I just want to bring it to you. The wisdom that India brings on the table is Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Sarve Santu Niramaya. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kishchid dukkha bhagbhavet. It is so beautiful. All your sufferings can be eliminated only when all of us come together. So this leadership is unfortunately not there in the Global Committee of Nations. Whereas there are still 153 nations yearning to become recognized in the global arena, and therefore India can offer as a Viksit Bharat a leadership to all these nations. And I consider this as a golden opportunity for India to usurp that position as not a moral policeman like what the leading nations are doing, but as a wisdom bearer for the globe. So my dear friends, we have a very large role to play, very large role to play. Because this role of global ombudsman has been vacated in the name of making dash dash great again and all that kind of a stuff. So we need to really bring that particular thing back. But when I say that all these things are very important, I am acutely aware of the fact that current reality to being a superpower rests on three parameters. Unfortunately, that is true that you cannot, at our stage, whatever we may say, we would like to be a Vishwa Guru and everything will not happen unless you satisfy these three parameters, which is economy, which is GDP, what she said, which is technology, which means that you develop the technology, and which is the military power. You have seen that. So when India has to become Viksit, India has to have these strengths, and then only we can offer that particular leadership. And in all these three, the core is technology. And that is the topic that I'm going to be continuing today. So, therefore, technology is the key, and disruption in technology has become a new normal. That is the challenge. Technology is key. And therefore, today's development, pace of development is unprecedented. What worries me, my dear friends, is this only handful companies today, 6 global companies, and you know which are those names, control the GDP equivalent to about 146 nations GDP. 146 nation GDP and 6, which are the 6? Google, Apple, Amazon. So these 6 companies control the GDP equivalent to 146 countries. And therefore this worries me that it is creating what we say, technology is a great universal. Technology is therefore leveler, is defeating its purpose because these global companies are usurping the entire technology power and developing an unequal world. Please think over it. And this is happening more and more in Silicon Valley, where the dominance is to control the technology. By whatever instruments, IP instruments and sheer knowledge of acquiring IPs left, right, and center, and this is creating an unequal world. My request is that India has to break this dominance. India, in its Viksit Bharat, and therefore Viksit Bharat 2047 is not a single goal domination. It is not only reaching one particular goal, and to do that, we need to ensure that technology becomes a vehicle for a global good. This is a larger moral responsibility. And therefore, what earlier, me and partly maybe the Dr. Kalai Selvi went to a very sequential way. We'll first do R&D, we'll do research, we'll do prototyping. I talked about TRL levels. I'm saying that I'm now abandoning all my thoughts. I'm abandoning the thoughts. Because that sequential thinking that I have to go from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 2, 9, and then as I am commercialization, this linear flow, my dear audience, is no more. And I am agreeing that what I thought as sovereign in my thinking, I'm feeling that if India has to reach, we need to break all these myths and some understanding that we have had. Because we are entering into a highly what we call a non-linear world. The Moore's law, as you can see here, we are comfortable in 70s when I was in the atomic energy, everything was normal. The turbine, the boiler, the nuclear reactors, the physics was same. So we could afford to actually assume that the science principle remains the same, is only we have to put more to get a bigger, more thing, more from more. If I take 200 megawatt, I'll next time make 500 megawatt, next time 1000 megawatts. So that was the linear thinking that we used to do, and today all those assumptions have gone for a toss. The Moore's law has shown that today the power of technology, and not simply computational power, the power of technology multiplies in every 18 months. And that non-linearity has created a problem because our mind, unfortunately, our mind is fairly linear in its thinking. It cannot perceive the non-linearity. Even in non-linearity in a mathematics, we join by a small line and make it linear with a different slope. And therefore, today the mental capability to adapt to the technological challenges is lower, as you can see that it has got a perception point, and therefore the problem of disruptions are not perceived by us. So if I take on the X side the maturity scale and on the Y side disruption potential, what do I choose? What do I choose? Do I go for maturity because we need to build 80% India in next 25 years? So let's go with the current state of the art, which you know are going to become obsolete, and I cannot be investing trillions of dollars in building those assets, whereas the y-axis is disruption. I don't know whether it will reach. No, this is going to be the important thing that we as scientists have to grapple with. We cannot run away. We cannot run away from this because Viksit Bharat will remain in quadrant 4. Game changers. So how do I manage, and I'll give you some of the way that I thought that we should manage the maturity, that I want to quickly take it to the next level, and make it commercial, and at the same time be flexible enough that if there's an obsolescence, I can bring the new technology in the investment that I've made, is the way that India has to really go forward. Very often, we as scientists, especially in India, are so much loving what we have done 20 years back and still want to embrace that. We don't want to drop things. We continue to work even when the things have been very clearly made as non-feasible. I remember in atomic energy when superconductivity came, when cold fusion came. Even now when people start working, when the things have been abandoned, I think the time has come that we need to bring as scientists clearly flexibility in terms of how do I take it and where we need to do this. One thing, I've traveled all over the globe, my dear friends, and when I see what is the strength this country has, India has tried for self-reliance since independence. Many of you may not be the product of independence, must have gone much later, and you will realize that we have to, when India got independence, and 2047 is 100 years, India was coming out from a very huge colonial rule which has completely depleted all the wealth of this country. 300 years of dominance. It has left us with a begging bowl, and I don't want to go back with any kind of a reparation in my mind, but India had to manage that situation where somebody said, I don't know to take his name, that he doesn't know whether India will survive as a sovereign nation. Bless him in his grave. Now, what has happened is that India had that time challenge. The challenge is we want to build framework. Institutional framework is important. In any democracy, if you want to grow, you need institutions. You need judicial institution, you need the parliamentary institution, you need the civil institution, you need the scientific institution, you need the press. All these things are important. So we have to form the institutions, and at the same time, we have to also develop the infrastructure. So imagine if we were transported back in 47, when India had only about 1,500 kilometer length of electrification, 240 kilometers of railway lines, I can maybe 140,000 tons of steel making, and India had to grow 10 times. What will we do? So the policymakers at that point in time had to struggle. What do we do? First important thing is what India did was to build the institutions, because India had the millennial wisdom was there. When I go now, I go to Middle East because we have set up IIT Delhi in Abu Dhabi. What I find, they said that what a beautiful thing that you people have got. When I tell them about CSIR laboratories, 37 laboratories. When I talk about atomic energy, when I talk about space, when I talk about the DRDO laboratories, when we talk about the way the funding has been created by our institutions, and they are maximized. But none of them have got this institution that is available. So India built these institutions. India also added this kind of a government, academia, and industry collaboration. So industry and academia, I'll come to that a little later, was not as strong as we were allowed, but we are lucky that for 75 years, India has got institutional framework in place, which, please, my dear friends, understand is a treasure for this country. It is not that easy to overnight build this institution. I'm sure as CSIR family, you know what it would have gone to develop these institutions. When you go to places like, I very often visit whether NPL or NCL or many, today when I went to CRRI, 1952, what must have been the visionary leadership which build those institutions, which build those systems. So to build from now, based on this, to 2047, we are lucky we have got that. And hence, therefore, New India is an inspirational India, and time now is to go back. Only one thing that we need to add is deep tech scientific incubators. The only thing that is missing now, which we need in abundance, and today in some of the discussions of the young scientists, when they were asking me a question, I was telling them what we need now is that you need to come out of your so-called safety network. All the scientists, and I'm taking a permission from her to tell you this, that if you are now want to reach this number, we need huge number of scientific incubators, deep tech startup companies, because that is the piece which requires to be impregnated in our current academia, research institutions, industry, and the government and public funding. That is one thing that we need to really bring it. Because when I say pre-independence India, C.V. Raman, what did he do? I mean, the amount of research he has done, and today we as chemists and chemical engineers use Raman spectra more than the physicists. You can imagine kind of work that has impacted at that time. Under a colonial rule, people like him wanted to say that yes, the so-called local, we have enough intelligence. And post-independence, that is 1950 to 2000, making India shed colonial legacy and the self-reliant became the mantra. And I'm a product of that. When atomic energy was created, when space was created, we were a product because we were thrown into the particular ring by the leaders to see that India becomes self-reliant in some of these technology denial regimes. That was fine, and in 1992, when India became a globalized economy, when the license permit Raj was open, and many of the young scientists here and other laboratories may be the product of that, post-liberation, India got connected to the global economy order. I'm just giving you the sequence. So today when India became a $4 trillion economy, it was all this enormous amount of background work that happened pre-independence to the post-independence to the post-liberalization. And today we are at a crossroad in 2025 where from the current India, which is good enough India, a $4 trillion India, we have to build India 8 times more. And that is the important thing. And therefore, in this, we have to create technological big behemoths. If Silicon Valley can create them, India should be doing much better than the Silicon Valley in creating those large institutions coming from these startups. I mean, if you just read the story of any one of these Googles and all the other 6 big, they started as small. That is where we need to talk, from quantum to AI to digital, and from manufacturing to service center in all the areas. How can we do it? The question now, as I said, how can we do it? Are the current instruments which are available, all the laboratories and infrastructure and all the funding that is available, is good enough to do this? Let us discuss. So technology for India now, if I say that 9 important technologies: quantum, space, energy, agriculture, blue economy, defense, security, semiconductors, AI. These are all the next big things which will propel India into the new economy. If these are the important areas, and in fact 3rd, 4th, 5th, when our Honorable Prime Minister is going to be there in that stick, these are the important topics and I lead one of them. We cannot be in a catch-up game all the time. Please, that somebody else will develop for us, that concept need to be abandoned. I'm not telling this audience is convinced, but to a larger audience, and which I do it, in fact I did it on the 4th of June when I was invited by Prime Minister's office to deliver this. So we need to be not in a catch-up game. Our temptation to follow what West is doing should be stopped. All the time we look at, references what is done elsewhere, and we try to justify that because it is done somewhere else is what we should follow. That mindset should be really eliminated from our thinking. Our best interests lie in what is good for India, and that can come from our own internal brains. I think we, as custodians of science and technology, has the right to say what India should be doing, rather than some vendor coming, and I'm saying it with my first-hand experience, and trying to sell his technology and trying to ensure that policies are built on those kind of ill advice should be stopped. Many times we as scientists take a back seat saying that this is what we have been asked to do. I think that role needs to be reversed. We as scientists and engineers who understand what is the cutting edge need to actually advise the government and the and the funding bodies what is required to be done. And that think tank, like the way all the developed nations have got, should take very active role. And I feel CSIR has got a major role to play in all these areas to say what India should follow. Often we are controlled or governed by many non-interested players who are only interested to sell technology and dump secondary technology to the country, and we lose a lot in that process. My dear, I don't want to take too much time on this slide. We have many success stories. I am lucky to be a part of atomic energy. I started my career in atomic energy in the 70s, and most of you might not have been born at that time. And I remembered when I joined atomic energy in the 70s, India had just demonstrated the capability for a peaceful nuclear explosion. Imagine in the 70s, India's economy was under $100 million, $0.1 trillion. Today, $4 trillion. $0.1 trillion, India had the guts and gumption to actually do these peaceful nuclear explosions. And that infuriated the elite club, who are now showing lot of affection to India, to say, how dare India, a snake charmer, a country with bullock carts, can do this high technology event. It actually made them to actually put a technology denial regime on us in the 70s. And that was the time. That was the time when I joined, enormous amount of focus was given for us. We were completely insulated from every other bureaucratic process and say that this is what is required to be developed for this country. Only one line indication by the iconic leadership, this is what is required to be done. And believe me, my dear, I was sharing with her on a one-on-one, we dedicated ourselves to the nation. Because that pride of doing something when you are denied has fired us. And we did everything. We made mistakes. We made blunders. But the leadership was so evolved. It was ready to accept. And I really feel that developing those pressurized heavy water reactor, developing plutonium, developing enriched deuterium was all done. In the whole talk I can take in doing what we did. And that was done in 70s, 80s. Under the Bhabha Atomic Research Center, we all did it under an iconic leadership. And West could do nothing to stop us from building it. Today, if India can stand firm, you see what has happened to Ukraine and Iran is because thanks to that work that we have done, with all that arsenal that we have, nobody can raise anything against this. So our security is secured under this condition. Extremely proud. Yes, there are many debates that can happen in what happened. So this is where I'm saying that if India has to become Viksit Bharat, we need to take examples from these kind of success stories. We need to rededicate ourselves. Taking a comfort zone and saying that, oh, I could have performed better had I been given this, will not do. It is our nation. And we need to bring it to that level because, and that I agree with you. You need not managers, you need iconic leaders. I'm singularly lucky when people like Vikram Sarabhai and Homi Bhabha and Raja Ramannas and Setnas, all of them were there to guide us and completely insulate us. We work with every other, today Larsen and Toubro, Godrej, Wipro, all of them came thanks to, they asked them, thanks to India's involvement of this so-called public-private partnership, building every part of the reactor. It was from first principles we developed. So my only submission is that India has got, space is another example where we can say that we develop these things. Space model was different. atomic energy model was different. But I'll not get into what is the difference between, that was, Vikram Sarabhai was a part of space was a part of atomic energy, only in only in 1976 it got separated. But the models were different, but the basic purpose was to make India completely self-reliant in the high technology areas. And therefore, my dear friends, I just want to tell you that we did it, and therefore this is what is required to make India. So let me now put a scene of Viksit Bharat means what? I said all of them, but at the basic level, we need to understand the Human Development Index. Because a 1.4 billion population is not a uniform population. India is a very diverse country. Very diverse country. And therefore, when you say that what is one barometer which makes India develop is when the Human Development Index, which is a function of a complex function of 6 parameters, reaches a value of 0.92. This has been very well understood by many, many social scientists. And today, India is at a point of 0.6. So we need to push India from a level of current 0.61 to about 0.92 by 2047. So reaching, because it is not simply GDP or military power or technology. Reading is, you have to change it from current 0.67 to a level where we reach, because Human Development Index is a good parameter that there is a complete kind of a equality amongst all the population. Today we cannot say that. If I draw a Gaussian distribution, you'll find that there's a huge amount of skew because 200 to 300 million people are still just below or just above the poverty line. And therefore, to pull all of them to get the so-called quality of life is extremely important. We talk about lifestyle, but I'm talking about quality of life to all 1.4 billion people, and therefore India has been growing for last 20 years at 0.0044 HDI per year, and we need to grow at 0.01, which is almost 2.5 times every year to reach that number of 0.92. I'm just giving you some quantified numbers, and similarly, if to get HDI, if your economy has to be $35 trillion economy, you will realize that India has grown from here to about 2020, about $3.8 trillion. It is coming to about $4 trillion, but I don't know to get into those numbers. And from $4 trillion, we have to reach to about $35 trillion, which means that we have to grow at about 9.5% compounded annual growth rate every year from today till next 25 years. So HDI index and CSIR are the major thing that we need to be doing it. And in that, we have to do one more thing, which no developed nation was asked to do. What is that? That as we are developing here, we need to also bring down our CO2 emissions because of our climate change obligations. So please understand that the order of problem that India has to face when we say Viksit is highly complex. And unless we understand this, we will not really understand what are the challenges that are there upon us. So when you have to do this, hence our GDP is increasing, whereas we have to decrease our CO2. There is not one country you can name me where they have grown this with the reduction of their CO2. All of them have grown on an easy, fuel available and liberal CO2 emissions. And today India has been asked that you grow, all right, you become Viksit, but you have to also reduce your CO2 emissions from whatever 3.4 billion tons or gigatons of CO2 or 3,400 million tons, we have to bring it down to 0 by 2070. So this is when we say that ecology is important, economy is important, environment is important, planet is important, and India has to become Viksit. These are all challenges which are upon us. Yes, I am going to come to this if there is some time. India has a lot of hits and misses. That is something, I'm going to give you an example that where all we missed our opportunities. Where we say we missed the bus. We say we missed the bus or we have already done this. It has cost a lot, my dear friends. And the example is we had brilliant scientists, brilliant academicians, and somehow the system was not able to use that academicians. I can give you one example of optoelectronics from IIT Delhi. Nirmal Kumar Khane. He is the global guru on photonics, 1958. People remember him as this thing. And today when you see photonics, India is nowhere where the nations like Japan and the US have taken miles and China has overtaken all of them. So there are many hits and misses, and I'm going to give you reasons why India missed, because of certain traits that we as Indians carry, which we need to examine, which I will tell you through that. That's where I again come back to that topic that we need true leaders. What I differentiate where India loses its touch is when we become, rather than becoming leaders, I take upon, and I cannot define these terms. I'm not a management guru to understand who is a leader. If I ask this to all of you, each one of you will raise a hand and answer your question, answer what is leadership in a different way. I can only tell you what defines a leader. For me, like Adi Sankara or Gandhi, or for that matter, Homi Bhabha, they're the leaders because they took on them the onus of all the blame that goes into this. Like when Abdul Kalam says that when there was this failure of PSLV, Satish Dhawan said, you be here, I will go and tell, and I say that I own this responsibility of failure. Next year, when India succeeds, he says, Kalam, you go and make the announcement that India successfully launched this. So, a leader is enormously important. I was talking to her this afternoon about what we are lacking now. We need that evolved leadership where leader is a yogi, very evolved person, and a commissar at the same time. Now, I've got maybe another about 15 minutes time, so I can. So I have laid the foundation. I hope you people are not too much tired. I just wanted to understand, laid the foundation that when we say so easily India Viksit by 2047, 47 is 25 years, so we can now say, I don't think we should at all take that particular. 25 years is tomorrow for a life nation, and therefore you have to seriously contemplate that what is that I can do to make that happen. To understand, therefore, I was giving you different dimensions of Viksit Bharat. As a global spiritual leader, as a global Vishwaguru, all these things are good words. But to implement them, you need certain basic things. You need military power. You need economy. You need technology. You need also today to ensure that the environment is taken care. Because as we are saying that technology are disruptive, there's one more disruption taking place, which is climate. Now, whether the technology, the disruptive technology has caused this disruption or it will kind of neutralize this particular climate change is a very important topic that we need to discuss. Because if the planet, human beings will be annihilated because of the climate change, and I'm not saying it just as a gloom day, But if the population, because of the climate change and the ecological disaster, ticking bomb is going to happen, then what will happen in the next 50 years is there will be no human beings which will be present. Then talking about Viksit Bharat and all that will have no meaning. And therefore, we have to develop in a responsible manner, which means that we have to take care of the climate change is something is highly, highly challenging to us. Because no country has ever developed its economy without contributing enormously to the climate change problem. And here, as India is trying to build its real presence in the global committee in next 25 years, we have been asked you to do it in a manner that you reduce your emissions. And as a responsible sovereign state, we are committed to do it. And therefore, I just thought, let me tell you, how do you manage this energy, environment, and a climate change, giving India's technological need? Because that is a topic I breathe, I live, I drink, I sleep, I do everything. And therefore, it's a topic of mine, and she knows that I cover all the aspects of this. So I'll try to give you some glimpses of this. But I just want to say that sustainability should remain, while we talk about Viksit Bharat, we should also understand that Viksit Bharat comes at a certain responsibility of all of us, that we need to ensure that the planet is sustainable. I win, you win. So it cannot come at that level, because we are in a state where the response variable is highly now in a nonlinear mode, that any small change you do to the control variable, which is the climate, any small change you do, you see a magnified impact on the earth. Therefore, all these forest fires and incessant rains and all the devastation that is happening all over the globe are the telltale indicators that we are in a highly layers. In our time, we could make many changes and disturb the ecology. The planet had a capacity to absorb. Is at some carrying capacity. But there is no carrying capacity now. Simply tinkle something, you'll find that the nature gives you back with whatever is the impact that we are all seeing, and all those 9 parameters are in their distress condition. And therefore, whenever we talk about development, whenever we are talking about technologies, we need to be completely seized of the fact that this technology has to be, whatever disruption, has to take care of these aspects. Because you see this, everything from this has gone exponential. GDP has gone exponential, foreign direct investment, fertilizer consumption, primary, everything has gone exponential, and the impact also has gone exponential. So you have developed, but the impact, all the nitrogen, ocean acidification, methane, everything has gone exponential. So there has been no balance force. Everything is becoming, and we are really at a stage where, how do I now ensure that population is increasing, GDP has to increase, India has to grow from whatever $2,000 per capita to at least, when you become 35,000, it will be about $12,000, which is what current China's per capita has to go. Energy per GDP and emissions per energy are the two important, the Kaya's identity. Very important identity. Now these two factors will have to be reduced. Unless you bring down the energy intensity per GDP that we are adding and the emissions per energy, we are not going to actually solve this problem. So we need this counteracting force, and that can be done by using the technology. And after that, that means India's approach to development is that, can I increase my current $4 trillion to whatever $35 trillion with reduced energy consumption, which means enormous amount of new technologies. When I say that today steel emits about 2.8 tons of CO2 per ton of steel, aluminium is emitting about 13.5 tons of CO2 per ton of steel, aluminium. Cement emits about 0.8 tons per ton of power plant. All these numbers are there. So if you want to reduce them, how do I reduce the energy per GDP and emission per energy? Deep technological work is happening, and that is where maximum disruptions are taking place. Maximum disruptions are taking place. And then, of course, is part of it, if you are not able to do it, the last resort is, okay, then I capture the carbon dioxide either from the air or from the point sources and find out some deep burial geological place where I can sequester. So that is the way that we have to really examine that. It is not that current, whatever CO2 is, because there's a big fad. That, oh, let us capture CO2 and put it there. First you have to ask that question. Am I putting the right amount of CO2 per kg of GDP that I'm adding it? Unless you answer that question and then say, okay, I'm doing everything and this is now balanced CO2, then only the CSIR should come as a last resort in our overall net zero plan. And this is the plan that I have built. This is one of the modeling exercises that I've carried out when I was in IIT Delhi, and where we realized that India's 3.4 will go to 3.8 and then it will come down to 1.9 in a line of sight scenario and 0.4 tons. So this is the way India will have to follow its net zero pathway. I'm not explaining in detail because I have several things to talk once. So these are the two scenarios that India will develop, but India will develop with these kind of scenarios where we need to take care of about 207 billion tons of carbon dioxide. So for this, my dear friends, we have developed some 9-stage models for bringing down India's CO2 while meeting the GDP requirements. That means if India has to reach $35,000 trillion, India's current energy consumption, which is 8,000 terawatt hours, will grow to about 26,000 terawatt hours. Just take these numbers. You may argue with me, sir, 26,000 may not be right. It may be 24,000, so I'm not going to get into any argument. But India has to grow its energy by 4-fold to get its GDP 8-fold. And to do that 4-fold, we have to actually adopt to these kind of a 9-thing accelerated adoption of renewable energy, circular economy, carbon capture and utilization and sequestration, sustainable farming, natural climate solutions, scale up of green hydrogen, faster penetration, process intensification and nuclear energy. So we have made a detailed plan. If India has to meet its energy requirement by 2047 to reach the magical number of $35 trillion economy and to meet its 26,000 terawatt hours of power energy, this is required, and enormous work is required in multiphysics and new modular electric. So what I'll do, let me just pick these 4 areas out of those 9 because I can't address all the areas. Let me take renewable energy, then let me take my favorite, and she knows that that's my favorite, clean coal technology. Let me also take nuclear energy because I'm now been asked to take up the leadership in the nuclear energy, where I'm sure you must have many questions about the small modular reactor versus India's reactor. So I'll talk about nuclear energy and of course the hydrogen because I lead one of the major hydrogen valleys in the country. Well, PV, let me just say, transformative development, India has built an impressive 160 gigawatt of capacity in less than a decade. I think we should clap for this country. So India has done enormously well in this, and people ask me, what you have done nuclear energy? You have put only 10 gigawatts in last 75 years. Whereas solar PV, how much we have put? 100 gigawatt, 106 gigawatt. And I absorb that criticism from people. And we also say that coal also we have done 230 gigawatts or 230,000 megawatts. Wonderful work India has done in 75 years, whereas we could add 100 megawatts in 100 gigawatts in less than 10 years. So we are clapped. But look at this value chain, my dear audience. See here, India has done that with only last mile, which is module making and EPC project development. This is not a very happy scenario. Yes, I agree that India has done enormously in putting the capacity, but India has really lost that 106 gigawatts. 92% of the margin has gone outside India. Are you realizing this? Very often this is not brought out. What we have done is only the low value intellectual work. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm saying this is the need of that hour. So whatever China did, we got it, built it, scaled it up. Because the scale is important. Speed is important. The industry tells me. If you ask Suman Sinha from Renewable Energy, sir, what you have done is, he's from IT Delhi, and he tells me, I have done, what you have done is right. That we have built. He has got his capacity, about 10 gigawatt is coming from Renew Power. I hope he's listening to me. So, what they have done? They have only added this. Whereas, look at the globe. Just 20 universities have done enormous work in research in solar cells. And that should shake us. Because the cost, which was $6 per peak watt, came down to $0.3 kilowatt because of enormous amount of research which was done at the solar cell level. And I don't have one Indian laboratory to put a dot there that this is what we have done. And this is a reality that we must accept. This is a reality that we must accept. That, and this is something that whoever is skeptical that what R&D can do, I want to show it to all the policymakers and somebody who says what R&D can do. This is what R&D can do, and R&D is doing it to bring down the cost. The economy of scale, which is unfortunately touted by the economists, is not the way to get cost down. It is the technology which brings down the cost. And that is where we missed it in this entire journey of solar photovoltaic. So similarly, the story is not over. We are not very far from the day when solar electricity, because quantum dot photocells are coming, hot electron junction, multiple plasmonic effect. Now these are all coming in the next big thing that the solar photovoltaic is expounding. And hence, we should be seized of the fact that the story is not over, but I'm getting worried. Graphene-based system, what MIT is now coming up, is saying that we will not only generate solar PV across the band, because we have got a tunable bandwidth, which can cover the entire thing so that the Shockley-Quismer effect is given a go, and therefore we can use it as a not only generator, but the storage. And I'm really worried whether the new IPR regimes will ensure R&D done by our scientists from commercialized. The only effort that all these companies, today Samsung and Apple own 450 patents on the graphene-based photovoltaic development. Which means that whatever we do in this area, we may not be able to commercialize it. And that really worries me, as we say that how do I now get into technology area in a disruptive mode without overcoming this kind of a things. So when I talk about it, technology maturity, the question that we should ask is whether we should go by X scale or whether we should go for Y scale. If I take a vote from here, it is that we need to really look at not this scale, we should go how fast we can go to the disruption potential so that we are not becoming obsolete when this becomes, see, the crystalline silicon became the mature technology where our 100 gigawatts are sitting. Tomorrow if perovskites are going to be the best way, quantum dots are going to be the best way, then what happens to those 106 gigawatts? Because the efficiency of this will be 3 times more than the crystalline silicon. And when somebody has to invest in gigawatt scale batteries, gigawatt scale systems, what happens to that investor? When I tell him that, no, your technology now is obsolete, I have got a technology which can give me twice the efficiency at 1/3 the cost, because perovskites are so cheaper to fabricate in a quantum dot basis. So please, there is no way that I would recommend that you should build these things. How do I build this next generation technology? When you talk perovskites, you may go to graphene. And same story works on the batteries. We started with lithium, now we are going to sodium, then we went to now solid state, and there are many, many, many things that happen. In this kind of a chaotic world, how do I get a wisdom? What should I recommend to the nation to actually build the right technology? Today, when PLI is given for water electrolyzer, I went and fought with the government. I said, we are making a major mistake, because water electrolyzer is a bloody old technology. Sorry for using this non-parliamentary word. It's an old technology. We used to do it maybe 50 years back as a small electrolyzer. That's not the way to go forward. But when $50 of a taxpayer's money will go, and a lot of people are building the technology, and I know that tomorrow's hydrogen will not be based on water electricity. Mind my words. Where is that wisdom that we are going to tell the policymakers? Because the policymakers are totally overwhelmed by some of the vendors coming and saying that this is the way India will go forward. And out of $1.9 billion, what is given as a National Green Hydrogen Mission, $1.7 billion is going only as a PLI to the water electrolyzer. And we as scientists are exasperated that what do we do? Because they will say, show us that you can do this way. Show us that you can have a photoelectrochemical way of doing hydrogen. Show us that you can do it through a different way of doing it, which I'm going to show it to you. So we as scientists are, oh, what should I do? Let me do my work. We'll actually be doing a disservice to our nation. We have to do this particularly. I'm sorry, madam, I'm telling this to all of us people that you need to be, you have a say in the matter. We are a democratic country and we are a science-based organization. We need to understand, but we cannot just say because somebody else is telling us. We need to do this work ourselves. Again, I'm not getting to each topic in detail, but just give you a glimpse. Coal will still remain as one of the mainstay, and I'm extremely happy because I am there in the center of this coal technologies. I talked to her just about, coal to chemicals, coal to methanol, coal to dimethyl ether, coal to ammonia, coal to ammonium nitrate. All these things, I've made it very clear and supported by our Honorable Prime Minister's vision that 100 million tons of coal gasification. Coal will not go away because renewable energy will meet only about 22% of energy requirement by 2047. India is a land-starved country. We have done the analysis. Maximum energy that can come from our solar and wind will be about 6,500 terawatt hours, whereas our requirement is about 24,000 terawatt hours. And therefore, large-scale R&D plant, we are building this. This is something which is, for me, at an advanced age, I really take this thing because this technology is now taking a root in the country. Extremely happy, my dear friends. I know SIMPER is working on this, BHEL is working. We need the indigenous technology, and this technology of 0.6 tons per day is now being taken up, and every element there, and ensured, right from catalysts to sorbents to amines to the compressors are made in India. And therefore, entire this 14 instrument we are making, and now we are going from CTM to a zero emission by converting CO2 to methanol by e-methanol process. Again, I'm just giving you a glimpse, not getting into what you are doing it. So not only we are doing a coal gasification, which is a high efficiency or a better efficiency, we are also ensuring that whatever CO2 remaining is also converted into more methanol and product. Similarly, nuclear energy. I think the third pillar, one is the renewable energy pillar, second is the coal with a clean coal with a CCUS, and the third one is nuclear energy. I think India, if it has to get, as our Honorable Prime Minister says, that for us, climate obligations, net zero has got four meanings. Number one, India has to secure energy independence. With all this global chaos that is taking place, India will have to build its energy and economy on energy security and energy independence. And that is where renewable energy, coal and nuclear energy will form that triumvirate. Second, what Prime Minister says is energy equity. We need energy to be equitably used by entire population. Number three is, of course, the economic development, and number four is the clean air. These are the four principles under which our climate change is organized. So India has to have nuclear energy as an important role, and in that, again, I want to little bit warn you people that again I'm finding the distortion taking place. The SMR, the small modular reactor, are being introduced in this country. Good. India needs that. But you understand that India's requirement will come mainly from the use of thorium, because India has got the second largest reserve of thorium. Whereas SMRs do not use thorium. If India has to build 100 gigawatt by 2047, and I'm making this in an open forum, then if you have to build it on SMR, 28% of that LEU, light enrichment uranium, will have to come from imported sources. So I'm convinced that nuclear energy should form a backbone of India's net zero, but I'm not so sure that the SMR is the way, or SMR is one of the way, because India's energy independence by nuclear energy, which is a clean energy, will also come from using of the thorium. Again, I'm not complicating this because this is the way India has to secure it, where we are using thorium in the HALEU, which is high SA, low enrichment uranium, which can be done, and this has been tested, but they can be already incorporated in our current generation of pressurized heavy water reactors. Now, I know many of you are uninitiated into this discussion. The simple fact that I'm talking about in the nuclear energy is that India has got uranium, maybe that can meet 20,000 megawatts or 20 gigawatts, but India has got a thorium which can meet the requirement, and therefore thorium can come as an alternate to this. But again, here you see the challenge is that you have to introduce thorium, and also you have to develop a molten salt reactor. Same challenge. Do I go for PWR, or whether you should go for an advanced, what you know, as high temperature reactor? Now, these kind of disruptions will continue to bog us in our development. And the last one, of course, I will not get into too much detail because this is my favorite subject, hydrogen technologies. I lead one of the hydrogen technologies about in Jodhpur, where there are enormous challenges of gasification, hydrogen molecules, and fuel cell, which Madam is so fully aware of it. We are developing a 350 tons per annum hydrogen-based valley. Okay, I'll again not get into this. This is something which has been approved by the government. It went up to the Prime Minister's level, and 4 valleys, one in Pune, one in Jodhpur, which I lead, one in Bhubaneswar, and one in Kerala, are the levels of this particular thing. But when you talk about hydrogen, I don't know how many of, I'm sure all of you are aware that why hydrogen is important. Because it is clear that whether it's a renewable energy or whether it is nuclear energy, we cannot carry energy as one single electricity. There's a temptation to say everything electricity because EV mobility has come, heating can be done through electricity, everything conditioning. No. for India to actually bring diversity, we need two energy carriers. One is electricity, which has limitation, which cannot carry more than maybe 20% of the total energy, because one grid cannot be the way the energy carrier. So you need another energy carrier which has to be carbon free, and therefore hydrogen is coming into play not as a primary energy source but as an energy carrier. So please understand, hydrogen comes not as a renewable energy storage mechanism, but hydrogen comes because we need diversity in our energy carrier. And in hydrogen, the challenge that we are facing today, of course is that how do I move hydrogen in the ecosystem? Today India has got very well versed fuel transport, diesel, petrol, LPG, natural gas to piping. We have established that. That carries about 2000 terawatt hours or equivalent to about 380 million tons of oil equivalent. But when we go to 2047, we'll be carrying about 3000 tons of equivalent energy. Out of which, if I assume that half of the energy goes as electricity, rest of the energy has to go as non-fuel grade, and that may have to be hydrogen. If I have to carry hydrogen, which would mean, let's assume that I have to carry 200 million tons of hydrogen by 2047, which would mean about 6,800 terawatt hours, then how do I carry hydrogen? Today, people seem to be telling, oh, we'll carry high pressure hydrogen at 750 bar. But I don't think that's the right way, because in a country like ours, imagine the safety implications of carrying hydrogen. And therefore, we have to actually examine what is the best pathway that India has to carry. I have been telling a lot of people that maybe LOHC or ammonia borane or a sodium borohydride could be the way. I think the debate should take place. Unfortunately, today there's so much of a pressure for a carbon nanofiber based high pressure vessels and tube trailers. We seem to be forgetting that for a country like India, whether hydrogen and carbon as a methanol, hydrogen and nitrogen ammonia, hydrogen and borane as an ammonia borane, which can carry almost 18% of weight percent of hydrogen, could be the best way. Somehow, because some people come from outside and tell that India should carry as high pressure, I think there is a huge amount of skew which is taking place. I sit on the DSC committee. 90% of our IITs are going for carbon fiber. Good, we can go. But is that the right way? Will we be able to carry in a country like ours with so much of complexity and I mean, we are talking about the geological, tectonic challenges that we are facing. What accidents can create if you carry 700 bar hydrogen is something I cannot fathom myself. And hence, the debate is not taking place, but because we are driven by some other agenda, we seem to be running that we should go for a high pressure hydrogen as a. I'm not convinced at all. And again, I'm going back to the government saying that please let's examine this whole aspect about how do I carry this particular thing, because it makes a sense that we should carry it in a manner which is safe and which is possible in the current infrastructure which is already available, which is in the form of a liquid fuel carrier. And therefore, if hydrogen will have to flow as some molecule and we can do that at the production stage itself, then we don't produce hydrogen. We don't electrolyze water. We just electrolyze nitrogen and water. We electrolyze CO2 and water. We electrolyze toluene and water. So that hydrogen, like a god, is everywhere, but it is not visible to you. It carried as a liquid fuel, and today those kind of a one-pot synthesis products are available. Again, I'm not getting the technological details, but this kind of a, rather than first go from a proton to electron, electron to hydrogen, hydrogen to convert it into molecule, this three-step process, because our mind is sequential, will not be the sustainable way of doing it. Here 20% efficiency, here 70% efficiency, and here another 70%. We can't afford to have 9% efficiency system to convert and carry hydrogen. We need to do it in one single pot step, and that is available to us. And that is where I'm saying disruptive developments are taking place. I cannot cover everything, but I can just tell you that the big bang here is that how do I really develop this e-fuels, e-mobility, e-steam, e-ammonia, e-cement, e-steel, where energy is going to be the important thing, and there are many things. Quantum theory, my dears. Because just look at this water, 1.2 electron volt, and to get your CO2 reduction, you need about 1.9 volts. Which means that whatever energy, because people keep asking me, why not to disturb the CO2 bond and get your carbon and oxygen? I mean, some big industrialist came and told me, I know we can solve this problem of carbon and oxygen by, CO2 by this kind of a thing. But once you look at these fundamentals, that 8 electron transfer challenge that we have to face, and I really feel that there are many ways that we can actually solve this problem. I'm not getting there, but if you are talking about disruption in clean technology is going to be residing in this, what we know as a core cell structure. Again, my dear friends, I'm not spending time, but this I'm convinced that if a group of institutions within CSIR can come together and look at whether one-step photoexcitation or a two-step photoexcitation system can be brought together, then you can actually do not get into this intermediate that I have to convert photon to a semiconductor, to a electricity, and from there I have to take it to a water electrolyzer and break water and then take it. All those processes will be obviated. So there are many things which are coming up in this. Nitrogen, hydrogen, ammonia will go to not to a Bosch process, Haber-Bosch process, but to a very different process. So as I said, the future of technologies will not be continuation of the past, only adding capacities, but it will be a new technologies. And therefore, when we build $35 trillion economy, it's a huge opportunity because it is not a linear extrapolation. Look at this way we can make ammonia. And when I presented to the Ministry of Fertilizers, they were excited. They said, sir, then why do you want to bring those zombie-sized 3,000 tons per annum what Halda Topsource and Kellogg's built such big plants? Why not to build smaller plants at the distributed level at maybe 200 tons per day plant, which can meet maybe 10 villages put together? But Indresan and Abdul Kalam were talking about city in a village will require, because there's a democracy as far as the energy distribution is concerned, thanks to the renewable energy. And if you are able to do this, you don't have to carry ammonia and make it into urea and take it all the way across the country through those tankers. So these are all important. Synthetic biology to convert hydrogen to many molecules using a natural leaf, artificial leaf to a bionic leaf. I mean, all of you know this. I think this is where the future technologies will lie, and they will not be extrapolation. Again, I'm saying for the thing. So closing, I'm going to be talking about some policy pathways. Technology engine can fly under favorable policy initiatives. So all I said, again, this is referring to our honorable madam here, because she's sitting at a level where we as scientists need to have a debate as to what should be the policy instrument that we have to use. Somewhere the policy instruments get distorted, and therefore we have to understand that cost of lag, delay, introduces a concept of technological debt. So India cannot afford to endlessly be bureaucratic in taking decisions. Number one, it's very important. If at all when we build atomic energy in 70s and 80s and 90s with the speed with which was required, because we could not afford to get into any kind of a bureaucratic hindrance. So because any delay you do, you actually build a technological debt, because technology is becoming disruptive and helps. If you don't take decision today, you are delayed by that much. Every year India fails to close the R&D gap. Compounded tech bed, harder to catch up. India's democratic dividend window is shrinking by 2040. We risk a demographic diabetes. So we cannot leap into the future with legacy system. Technological sovereignty is not not optional, it is existential. So this is very important, one aspect. Second is, you see what is happening globally. In hydrogen, I'm giving you one example. Now India has thought that 5 million tons of hydrogen we are going to export because Europe is saying that we want this hydrogen. Because they know that the India with its cheaper renewable energy, solar, is going to generate hydrogen at the lowest cost. Today, hydrogen that we are generating is about 3.5 euros, whereas the cost of hydrogen in Netherlands is 13.6 euros. So Netherlands wants to get India's hydrogen based on our land we have developed and use that in their steel and bring down the footprint of their steel and stop India from exporting steel. Are you getting the equation? And that's the problem. That do we, because the CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Management Tax, if you do it, I've just done this thing about India will not be able to sell and lose about 8,000 crores of revenue because Indian hydrogen will be used in Europe to bring down the footprint and stop India's steel to be imported. What is the question? Why can't we use that hydrogen in our own steel plants? So these, because now the policy is made, now there's a huge shift in the policy that we are going to export from all 7 ports, Paradip, Kandla, all these ports. So this is where we need to understand, these are all the conundrum of this one. Last few slides, I would like to say that for us as academicians, as research scientists, co-creation is important. We said that number of times, I don't know how many times we have said. I think it is important that we need to set joint priority setting in the form of a national applied research missions. India has to determine its mission, co-located research labs, mandatory industrial sabbatical for young faculty and young scientists. I think you're already doing it, madam. It's very important. Because when I go to, I am now connected to about 7 IITs, and I really find that our faculty members do not know what is the industrial problem. They feel that they want a solution, and they feel that the solution has to be imposed on the industry. Industry will not accept that. And therefore, it is important that our scientists, especially the young scientists, are immersed in the industrial internship and go through this whole thing so that they can leave the problem. We need to understand, like what she said, I have lived through the problem when I know what is the levelized cost, what is the life cycle cost, what is the internal rate return. So it is important that we need to have this mandatory industrial sabbatical, and of course PhD reforms. Your exterior is a very important introduction. I did that when I was in Pune to create a Pune University industry embedded PhD track where part of the thesis is solved. But I think we have to do it. We have to do it in a much more accelerated manner. De-risking industry adoption and local innovation, risk-sharing innovation funds, validated innovation platforms. So I've just thought through some of them. This is available to you. I'm not going to repeat because these VIPs are very important, because third-party certification agencies like CSIR that validate prototypes and processes, because many people come up with their prototypes and processes. We don't have a facility where we can bring them together and do that, because in the place of hydrogen and electrolyzers. So industry don't have to retest everything themselves, and regulatory sandboxes, because today set up sector-specific sandboxes that industry can trial new technology under relaxed regulations. Because if you say that, okay, you want to use hydrogen, today to get a hydrogen at 300 baht, PESO is still not giving us the permission. In my valley, so we are keeping it at 200 baht. I have to do so many things. So if too much of a regulatory sandboxes are put into me, how do I then proliferate use of hydrogen is a question mark. And then, of course, we have to develop a 10-year grand challenge. Some work is happening, 3rd, 4th, 5th November. We are trying to build grand technology missions, dual incentive policies, Matrix reforms and innovation brokers. We need national innovation brokerage firms, specialized professionals whose job is to transfer the academic research into business relevant language and handhold SMEs and startups. These are all some of my ideas. I just have across put this whole thing. We have to put more patents, very important, and intellectual property rights like the trademarks and other ones, because India is still forming about 2%, China is 46%, USA is 18%, Japan is 7%. So if India has to 3 global innovation thing, we need to have 10% of the global patent as an important aspect. Missed opportunities. I just don't want to go to that. India has lost a lot of opportunities. Madam, with a folded hand, I'm saying that today we cannot afford to do that. We saw, as I said, Narendra Singh Kapani, fiber optics, he was called a father. You go anywhere. I was in Germany. Kapani, this is Narendra Singh Kapani's work. We seem to have forgotten. Superconductivity, semiconductor research, CDAC and IISc, genetics and plant genomics, MS Swaminathan, in 70s we did. Solar cell, CV, I mean, lot of work we have done, but somewhere when you see the current path, we are not there. So going back to millennia, India's wisdom like Nalanda, Taxila, bring goosebumps. Where did it evaporate? We are not able to mimic such grand institution. Why are we not able to do that? Are a question that we need to do it. Last, new policy instruments would therefore require not only the big corporation, because big corporation may have many vested interests. I think we need this startup ecosystem. So instead of that triple helix, I'm saying that we need quadruple helix, where startup system is a very important, and we need thousands of such startup ecosystems to be created in our kind of a thing. So this is for younger students. My only closing 3 slides. One is that when you do this Stokes theory, implications of your research to the relevance, I think Pasteur did a great science whose impact was also great. So today, if India has to really reach that number of Viksit Bharat, and we need to be at this place. Whereas most of us are very happy doing a tinkering level work. I think all of you young people I'm addressing, please, you have to ensure that whatever research work you are doing and whatever knowledge you are creating will have enormous impact on the society. Bring that up in your mind. Remove yourself from your work that you're doing it. What is that I'm doing it? How it can contribute to making India Viksit is extremely important. 5 mantras, bring speed to your work. Do not procrastinate on anything. Absolutely bring speed to your work. Smart design of experiments. So today there are a lot of tools which are available. Today the enormous amount of the AI/ML support that you have got, and the way that you can characterize and you can do a lot of online synthesis of materials. I mean, you can know all of them. So you can really do a smart design of experiments. Can I do the last experiment first? Brave to accept failures but move fast. Look out for creating IP at every step of your research. And of course, I'm just saying that bring that spirituality in your working. I think it's very important that if you want to reach that level and dedicate yourself, because we need one generation to make India Viksit. I'm sorry, I'm not absolving myself, saying that now I become old, so I can't do anything, but I'm just pleading the young generation, one generation, that you need to give it to the nation. If China has become what it is, in 1990s and 95, China GDP was less than India. China was condemned as a third world country. And in just 2 decades, if China could do what it is, and we cannot always say that, oh, it was not a democracy, they have done enormous amount of work, because there was this one generation which worked relentlessly. Like Germany did it post-World War, like Japan did post-World War, like Korea did post-World War. We need that generation. We are there. I'm ready till my last breath. I'm telling you with all my emotions at my command, I'm ready, available to do anything to help you to ensure that we are able to make India Viksit in a complete form. Not simply in the GDP, but in the form that we elevate the wisdom to a level, and therefore for that certain amount of spirituality is extremely, because that brings an enormous amount of awareness in you. That awareness brings you very close to the truth that you are searching. And hence, my request to all of you is that these are all my own understanding about what is required to be done. I want engineers to be more involved in R&D, and because you know the smiling curve, what our Raghuraman Rajan had talked about, advanced added economic value is always when you do a R&D and better services, not in production or distribution. So we need to really have that particular thing. Make innovation, public-private collaboration, overlap must be maximized so that we have got this thing. And therefore, the mindset that we need to guard against incrementalism. We need to abolish that incrementalism, that I will do 10%, 5%. No. We now need an order of magnitude. Legacy system to deliver Viksit Bharat. India cannot build future with legacy system pervading in our academic and research institution. I've been telling my academic faculty colleagues that no way that writing publications and that's the only way for getting your promotion will not do. All of you need to really now get immersed in the industry, understand the problem, look at what India needs, so therefore we need to do it. Do not become a dumping ground of obsolete technology. India should be wary of a dumping ground of poor technology in the name of being clean technology. India should become the next factory world, risk-averse industry. Now this is a message to the industry. Indian industry, unfortunately, and this I tell it in every open forum, is risk-averse. Saying that, no, I can't wait, who is going to take the risk? I said what all the other thing that government of India is trying with all the ANRF, but I think technology sovereignty is not optional, it is existential if India has to be called Viksit Bharat. Inability to build scale capacity. I think, as I said, it's not simply leapfrogging into new technologies, we need to build scale to our technologies. Because as I said, that we cannot achieve these numbers unless we build from 80 million tons of steel, how much we want? 300 million tons. So 4 times steel we are going to build in next 20 years on a technology which is going to be new. Today from 300 million tons of cement, we want to go to 1.5 billion tons of cement. When you want to do all this in such large numbers, we need to have capacity to build scale what China has shown. Sorry. But I would like to, one thing that comforts me, that India has got tremendous amount of I would say, wisdom in this country. A lot of wisdom is there. It is not only in this room or in the 37 laboratories. I mean, you can see this. Shivraj Rajput from Dhule grew a modified variety of bamboo which now grows at twice the rate, giving him more income at same time absorbs CO2 at a double rate. Bhutan and its great happiness index. So let us not say that when you want to get this, we need to look at how we can actually ensure that the knowledge which is available out there, the traditional knowledge which is available there, which CSIR had taken an enormous interest when we did all that turmeric and everything, has to be brought in, because India with this kind of a population has enormous wisdom available, and we need to tap into that reverse itself. These are all technology that we are working for, that 2023 9 systems. So I close this thing with a Sanskrit shloka which is very important, as I said that Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Idam Purnamidam Purnamudam. Similarly, the main thing is Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahe. This is one of the most important shlokas, where we say that if we are only able to do together, collaboratively, come together, stop working in silos, then only India can reach. As I said in the morning session, alone you can run fast, but together we can run far. And India has to run very, very far to reach that position, so that we become a global lighthouse to bring that lost wisdom in the global order. I wish you all the best, and once again thank Madam Kapil for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you.
So you want to take one or two questions?
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah. Especially from the younger audience or anybody, of course. Hey.
One thing I thought maybe missed or which we overlook is about the customer base. We are aiming for tech. We are blaming the industry that like they are risk averse or they have to be risk taking and all that. But at the same time, we don't have the customer base for the new technologies. How do we address this?
See, I feel that India is a huge customer base. All these Western companies, I'm not against them, are coming to India not because of love for India, whether it's e-vehicles or whether it is whatever products in every time. Because India with a 1.5 billion people, with a 30%, if I assume as the middle class, which is a growing economy, is a huge marketplace. Is a huge consumer place.
For the tech, not the consumer products.
Ultimately, technologies are going to deliver the products. Ultimately, they are going to be delivering the products, whatever products that we say for life cycle. So please, India is a market which combines all the Western world population put together. And therefore, all the companies, when they want to set up a shop here, is not, I mean, maybe there is some this thing, is not with any kind of a this thing. It is because they know that India with that economy will be a huge marketplace. And therefore, technologies are required to meet this kind of a market demand. So I would like to tell you that market is going to grow. Only thing is that whether we are going to develop that market based on an imported technology or an indigenous technology. My always request would be, no, we need to meet the demand by having our own technologies, because our technologies will deliver much better product than the imported ones.
We have a question from the YouTube viewers already. The question is from Dr. Nagaya from IICT, and the question is, how can India balance the pursuit of disruptive innovations with the need for scalable, inclusive, and mature technologies, especially in sectors like agriculture, health, and education, to ensure equitable progress towards Viksit Bharat 2047 without deepening the digital or developmental divide?
No, I am completely cognizant of the fact, and this has been my question, that how do I really now go ahead with what is required for meeting my immediate requirements by using the current technology with the disruption that are taking place. And that is where we as scientists should guide these sectors as to how they can keep that flexibility of going ahead with the current production, while when the new technologies come, we can easily adopt to this technology. What am I saying? Let us say today, to build a silicon PV, you need a PVD, or you may need a MDBF as a coating technology. But tomorrow, if perovskites become and a hybrid cell comes, you need a different way of doing a coating of this particular perovskites. Now, can you understand and build a factory which can adopt easily to these two technologies, and that is eminently possible, is the way that we really need to be going forward. So it is not easy that whether we should go ahead with the current state and then disband the whole thing to meet the disruptive technologies. So my suggestion is that maybe we actually need to have a brain, the think tank system. We should tell which are those technologies which will be the future, and those technologies need to be set up with the new method of manufacturing it. This is what I would like to.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So thank you, sir, for this very, very vibrant, energetic, deeply insightful and thought-provoking talk. No one can match your energies except the battery women of India. So, ma'am, request you to please, if you would like to make some remarks and felicitate.
So friends, I know it is Friday and it is 5 o'clock. 5 to 5:30. Many of you are really tensed up. But then no, please let us accept that this is one of the great eye-opening experiences that CSIR is really receiving through this AMRIT lecture. And today's lecture, I would say it's a great learning curve for me and many of you from CSIR family, because he started with in a very humble way, in his own style. He started, whether it is win-win or win and defeat. So this is how he started. But I think you made one thing very clearly. Now, next to ATM, hereafter we will not forget ETM, which is economy, technology, military power. To increase economy also and to address the military power also, you said technology is very much important. And also you made all of us to understand one point very clearly. So hydrogen, many a times we consider it as a fuel. And today you made it very clear that it should be considered as a carrier. And hydrogen carrier is the future. And that is again another very interesting point. And also you made all of us to understand whether it is SPV or OPV or CPV. So which PV we should really concentrate on, you made us to understand. Again, you started with a very important nailing question. You want to do more and more, or you want to follow Moore's law? I think that was a nailing point. So we can do more and more, but at the same time, we should not forget the Moore's law also. Therefore, are you going to wait till the maturity is ensured, or you're going to scale it up also, which is really required? And also 4 quadrants in many of your ways. So now we understood that the tinkering is no longer required. So you should move to Bohr or Pasteur or Edison. So I think that quadrant also, I really admit, this is the first time I have seen such a quadrant wherein you left the one quadrant, tinkering quadrant blank, and you said 3 other leaders. So you can choose whichever quadrant you want to occupy, because he has already removed that tinkering and he made it as very vacuum, because it is not the place that is to be occupied by CSIR. Now I do not know how to control myself, because most of your slides are already recorded in my mind. And so my friends, only one thing is very clear. I think in this auditorium, this is first time Viksit Bharat, Viksit Bharat, Viksit Bharat. I think at least 108 times he would have definitely told. And he has given a totally new definition and the easiest way of understanding what is the real meaning of Viksit Bharat. Because many a times, like sloka, like mantra, like an involuntary action, we also say Viksit Bharat 2047, VB 2047. So all of us, it is becoming a statement in all the addresses. Viksit Bharat 2040. No one can complete their address without touching upon this Viksit Bharat 2047, because this is the single line message that the national leadership has already given. And therefore, it is our slogan, it should be the mantra. But he has really given the meaning of what is Viksit Bharat. If at all Bharat has to become Viksit, he has given all. I think I really wonder what is the capacity of your brain. So you are talking about this hydrogen, whether it is 300 or 450 or 750 bar. But now I'm thinking, what is the number of neurons you have? What is your memory power? How many numbers you will have? I have seen political leaders talking about numbers, because they will be talking about the numbers. They are living with the numbers. But a scientific leader is living with numbers, and the numbers are very clear. The numbers are up to date. And he is clearly telling for 4 times energy within 18% of the total time, with the next 1/3 time of the time that is left with. And we have to make it as 8 to 9.5 times the growth. This much only I remember. At least I should also prove that I listen to you. My goodness, the kind of numbers. There is a mini calculator, there is a mini laptop, I do not know. I think you have some kind of a nuclear power within yourself. And therefore, you are really, really coming out with, and also you made all of us to think about what is the use of water electrolysis and to what extent SMR is to be considered, whether SMR is the only option or SMR is one of the options. I think number of questions, thoroughly enjoyed. And I think I will appreciate you personally now, because all of them, they have to really go back to their home as well as their town. So friends, let us put our hands together one more time to really appreciate. Please multiply this sound into 37 to really understand what is the decibel that you are receiving for your talk. And also you gave a different number, that is 18th Amrit lecture. So 18 is you said? I think I wish to stop here. So the moment you said Kohli, then I started thinking about many things. So friends, today we really listened to a great eye-opening talk, and let us really meditate the various points, the various factors, various mantras, various formulas that he has left with us. And this will help CSIR in a very big way. Today I'm really telling you very openly, I'm thinking that the purpose for which Amrit lecture was started is getting really fulfilled. Thank you so very much. And on behalf of entire CSIR family, we are extremely grateful to you for sharing your thought, your time, your energy, and all of them will be now able to understand what is the meaning of real energy as far as human or the mankind is concerned. Thank you so very much on behalf of the entire CSIR family. Thanks all of you. Wait for 2 more minutes. We have to honor the speaker, and then we can really leave this auditorium. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for summarizing the talk and spelling out the takeaways. So on behalf of the entire CSR family, I express our sincere gratitude to Professor Sonde for accepting our invitation and for sharing his invaluable insights into redefining energy innovation. Sir, your insights have not only expanded our understanding of India's transformative potential, but also ignited a renewed sense of purpose among our researchers and policymakers with a powerful vision of India's future. Thank you, ma'am, for creating this opportunity through this Amrit lecture series. Thank you, SCDD and DGTC for coordinating this series, and for IT division also for broadcasting it. And thank you everyone for joining this session, both physically. Yes, especially joining us both physically and online on a Friday evening when everybody is ready to leave the city in some cases, or be with the family to celebrate the weekend. So a delayed weekend, but with a very energetic talk and extremely thought-provoking. And I think it's going to resonate for a very long time and help us redefine what we are working on, including the international division. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone.